This is Comic Books This Week. My name is Hannibal Taboo. I'm the head comics reviewer at Bleeding Cool. This is Dr. Stanford Carpenter, comics anthropologist, bon vivant, and general man about town. And we're going to talk about a number of books that came out this week, which is, what is this week? July 28th, 2021. Feel free to start wherever you'd like, Stanford. We got a little under 48 minutes.
All right. Well, we've got the Marvel, we got the DC, we got the Independents. Which one do we want to start with?
Let's bounce around. Let's do a little bit of both. Let's start with some, because DC was black as heck this week. Let's start with some DC and then we'll bounce over to some Marvel stuff.
Okay. All right. Let's get up to an let's get up to an interesting start. What do you think of Superman, Son of Kal-El?
Okay, Superman, Son of Kal-El. I was actually underwhelmed. Well, no, what did they say on the Titans cartoon? I was whelmed. It did what it needed to do. There was a really great moment. I just saw your text, so I just went, oh, sorry. There was a really great moment in it where he gave me 100% Tyler Hoechlin. He was Superman. He was the power, but he was also the goodness, and he was also the caring for other people. And that combination of things was really great. What I wasn't interested in seeing was all the backstory about his birth, the day of his birth. Even though the alien invasion joke was cute, I, for one, I was whelmed by it, because I didn't need to know that John Kent, the son of Superman, was born. I knew that. That's not a secret to me. Let's get into him and not his father, not his mother, build his own character on who he is. So, it was pretty. It was a good-looking book, but I'm not really necessarily, 1,000% on board for it. What about you? What did you think?
Okay, I really liked what they were trying to do with his birth.
Mm-hmm.
But I did feel like it was too long.
Yes.
I almost feel like all they really needed was the conversation between Batman and Wonder Woman about what is this kid ultimately going to be, right?
Yeah.
And I think that because that's actually the whole question of this entire title. But I think that I feel like that question needs to be either like really concise, one or two panels or one or two pages, or it needs to be an entire comic, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a giant prelude. But I think that it was both too long and too short in the way that they did it. I'm with you. I loved the part where they show how he resolves the thing with the forest fire.
Yeah.
I love that he comes in with all this power and he wins the day with his humanity, but that he kind of makes a bad choice at the very end, right? In terms of what he does in relationship to the military.
He trusted the uniforms.
But it was an understandable. It was a totally understandable choice. It was an understandable choice that John made that Clark wouldn't have. And I thought that's the thing that I thought was interesting.
Adult Clark would not have made. Teenage Clark, I'm
exactly.
not so sure. Yes.
Oh, teenage Clark would have totally made it. But John is basically teenage Clark.
Yep.
And I like that they're not afraid to let him be that. And
did anybody else lose Stanford's signal? Or is that just me? Oh, there you go.
Pardon?
I lost you for a second.
I said I like the fact that he stopped in on Damian Wayne. I thought that was also really good, a really good contrast moment, like seeing, okay, what's the differences between these two scions of 2/3 of the Trinity, right?
Yeah.
All in all, I'm going to be honest. I thought this book was much better than I thought it would be.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I felt like, I'm not going to say I was overwhelmed. I'm not going to say I'm whelmed. I'm going to say I'm medium whelmed. And there is enough here for me to come back to.
That's my new favorite thing. I'm medium whelmed. Oh my God. I didn't expect that one to catch me that way. Okay. Medium whelmed. Yeah. I'm here for it.
I mean, hey, you got to be medium whelmed sometimes. But I'm curious to see what they can do, and I do think that having a John Kent as Superman opens up the door for some interesting stories and some more interesting stories. I feel like Clark Kent has been I'll just say Clark Kent for the Superman, right? I
Yes.
feel like he's basically been stuck in the prime of his career for 70 years.
Okay.
And the stories that you tell in the prime of someone's career are different than the stories you tell in the other stages. So I feel like the problem with Superman is that he's been stuck in the same stage for too long. So it's nice to have a new character in there being Superman who who still has things to learn. I'm curious to see what they do with Clark Kent's character because there are some really interesting open questions of what do you do with a more mature Superman? A
Well,
Superman who's been around the block, doesn't trust the uniform no more, right? And the Superman of the Authority title is not what I'm talking about.
that's what I was about to ask you. I was literally about to ask. I was like,
Nah, I think the Superman of the Authority title it's almost gimmicky.
what about the future state Superman, the elder statesman Superman with 10 or so scions of different things? One's a Blue Lantern, one's a farmer, one's a this, yada yada. One's a barbarian.
I actually like that Superman better than the Authority Superman.
Okay. Well, there's more
but I
to
th-
him.
But I also think that the Superman is somewhere between that. He's not there yet. He hasn't had a chance to spawn that many.
Okay. All right. Well, I would personally give the book a meh. Would you say it's a little higher than that as an honorable mention for Superman, son of Kal? What is it called? I can't remember.
Son of Kal-El, and
Son of
I'll give it an honorable mention.
Okay. All right. Well, this is Comic Books This Week. I'm Hannibal Taboo. This is Dr. Stanford Carpenter, and we are talking about books that came out this week. We just discussed a Superman book. Let's go over to Marvel and see what they have going on.
Okay, let's get it over with. Let's talk Eternals.
You know what? I read that last page. I was like, this is not going to sit well with him. He is not going to be happy with this.
Well, you know what? I feel like for the first time, Eternals has actually become moderately interesting.
Something definitely happened.
I mean, I think that the revelation that they had about the Eternals' immortality, I thought that was amazing and a long time coming. It finally distinguishes it. It distinguishes it from the immortality that the X-Men have. It also explains a lot of the. It also, really, really, when you get into it and you get into the ramifications of it, it starts to explain some of the oddness of the Eternals.
Yes.
As we, because they also gave us a little more insight into their resurrection process, although their resurrection process is still very similar to it. In some ways, it's actually even more similar to the X-Men's resurrection process. This idea that we're saving copies of you, and then we download that copy into a shell, and then you're new again. And I'm like, well, but for the one who died, they're still dead and they don't come back, right?
Super
I mean,
dead.
it's like the problem with it's the problem that you have with transporters when you really think about them in Star Trek, right?
Bones brought that up many times.
Yes, and yet he still walked in. That didn't make any sense. But what I thought, I mean, well, okay, let's do the spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. We discover that whenever an Eternal is resurrected, a human is killed.
Yep.
And I thought that, like I said, I think that's interesting. But here's the problem: it took us 6 issues to get to that.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot of issues. Yeah.
it's a lot. And
That's like
and
24
then,
bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and then the other thing that I think is interesting that they explain is that Eternals have found out about this before. Most of them don't know, but a few have found out before, and they brought it to the big Unimind of all the Eternals when they meet together.
Yeah, they
as
come
an
together
ethical
as this
dilemma.
Unimind thing.
Yeah, they come together, and essentially every time the people who think it's a bad idea get outvoted because everyone else is like, they die anyway.
Not just outvoted and mind wiped.
And mind wipe.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you get a little bit of explanation as to why these characters are just so static, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's moderately interesting. But this needed to come up in issue. If this had come up in issue 1 or 2,
Yeah,
I think this would have been a much more interesting. It did everything. It would have been a game changer for how you read everything.
exactly.
So yes. So I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say I was moderately whelmed by this, but I will say I was whelmed, which is an improvement.
We've been pretty spicy about this book. The idea that the Eternals, this group of people who are essentially the Earth's defense system, and the Earth itself is a character. The Earth is a sentient computer that lives and makes decisions and helps them do these things, and they help it run. And their immortality is a feature, not a bug. Was always a little to me. I wasn't really feeling it, but now it's got stakes. Now it's got teeth to it. Now it means something to a certain degree. And what there was a number of things that I took away from this. First of all, the Earth is a jerk. Oh my God, I did not expect the entire planet to be a jerk. Because it's like, yeah, I see this happening, but basically, screw all y'all, basically. If you really want to come down to it at the end of the day, because I got to keep running, and that's the most important thing. And what you think, it doesn't matter because, you're all replaceable. So that was first. Second, I was a little saddened by what used to be called the corruption factor of one of the Eternals. The Black Eternal is the one who went crazy. Oh, I can't
Right.
do it. I got to break. Yeah, no, I don't need the black one to be the one to go crazy when there's so many other great choices who are already closer to it. That was a little bit of a beef for me. Yeah. But overall, I like you said. I mean, at $24 in, if you've been buying this book for 6 issues, this is a little bit of a tease, and that's a little unfair given the economy and the way life is, and this is people's real money. I don't think that's a fair use of people's money. I do think that the idea has teeth to it, but as is often the case with many comics, the concept and the execution don't match. The concept can be strong. You can come up with when you tell people an idea, oh, that's a great idea. I haven't heard. That's a really interesting idea, and then you do it in the most boring possible way, or the most ham-fisted way, or you screw up the black guy and make it racist, or whatever you do. There's a lot of ways to go wrong there.
What's interesting about this idea that somebody dies for an eternal to continue on
Yeah,
is it introduces this idea of blood sacrifice, and it
yes,
brings up this idea, but we're not talking about a voluntary blood sacrifice.
no,
And that would have been really interesting. Like, it would have been really interesting if the Eternals found out and the humans found out at the same time.
yeah, because they're harder to mind wipe. What I did notice about this, in a very strict sense, is that it's the law of conservation of energy. That there's only apparently so many souls to go around. So if I got to bring up if an Eternal dies and he's got to come back, I got to whack somebody. Somebody got to die.
Right. But it's interesting what's interesting is this idea that they're hardwired to protect a particular person who happens to be the person whose soul they're going to take. I mean, that is so gruesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing what they've done is they've actually shifted the Eternals from being good guys to bad guys.
But they also, because the character Icarus, he had this feeling, something pointed him in the direction of one specific human that he was going to protect at all costs. We don't know what did it. There's still we don't know if it was the one Eternal who went nuts, who corrupted the machine. We don't know if the machine is going nuts itself and corrupting itself, as you may have seen in the book Accession by Ian Banks. There's a lot of unanswered questions about why we got pointed to this one specific kid who apparently had to die in his bed so Icarus could live again. There are questions that I have about that, but again, given that it's taken me 6 issues to get this far, and I love Kieran Gillen's writing. I'm a big fan of him from Phonogram. I've loved the work he did in Young Avengers. He did some interesting things in Wicked and Divine. But, this is like, I see that you want to do something, but I don't see why you're trying to do something while driving at 5 miles per hour with the parking brake on.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, this becomes really interesting when Captain America finds out. So Captain America finds out, and he sees Icarus die.
Yeah.
And then Icarus comes back the next day, and Captain America knows that somebody died for Icarus to come back.
Yeah,
That's the interesting moment, right?
Wait, did Captain America find out in this issue?
No, he didn't. But I'm
Oh, I was
just
about to say
saying.
what?
I was being hypothetical.
Oh,
That's when this
you playing with
becomes
my emotions.
interesting. This becomes interesting when everybody finds out. When everybody else finds out. When people when people see the Eternals flying around, and they realize when that Eternal gets his crap beat out of him that some human being was killed, because that Eternal is definitely coming back. That becomes really interesting. Like I said, it's like that's when the Eternals are no longer heroes,
I wonder how
because the
closely
Eternals
this.
don't sacrifice anymore.
True, true. And I'm wondering now that you say this out loud, how closely this will hew to the cinematic version. Because if they bring this forth, that will make a very interesting new layer to what's happening here. And I immediately thought, if this was the case, who died already? Who has already died so you idiots could live? And what
Right.
lives were cut short? What would they have done? What would they have become? Who could they have been, and what changes did you rob the universe from with those humans not being? Because we got a Reed Richards, yes, but were there other Reed Richards that we didn't get because of this?
Yep.
And those are
So
questions
like
I
I
think that
said,
are important.
I think they opened an interesting door. They just opened it too late.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of, and now that I say it out loud, I would have been happier if the Earth was smart enough to find somebody that was supposed to die anyway. Because a lot of people die all the time. But,
Right.
if you're just going to say, nope, I'm going to find somebody perfectly all right and whack them because why not? Wait,
Well, but it's
what?
not just that. There's an element of grooming to this. I'm going to groom this one to be the one who I whack.
That's messed up. They are bad guys. That's really messed up, Stanford.
It is, isn't it?
Wow.
But that's just me reading.
You and your literacy.
So I think we need to go. So let's switch back to a DC. How about Checkmate? Who is Damon Rose, and do you care?
I looked through this whole book twice. I don't know who Damon Rose is.
And I don't care.
I was like, wait a minute. How you going to put this on the cover in big letters and it's not even in the book? It's not even mentioned. What are you doing? What is
I'm going to tell you.
this?
I thought that this was an incredibly beautiful book. I actually love the art. I love the storytelling. I actually have a soft spot for artists who actually keep their illustrations in the panels.
Yeah.
I like the way it contains a story. But I'm like, where's the beef?
You're not wrong. But okay, here's the thing. Checkmate is a spy organization, right? That's their
Right.
gang. They're a spy organization formed by, as the book says, the world's greatest detectives. Lois Lane, The Question. I don't know why Green Arrow's here, but he's one of them too. And so on and so forth. To fight against this group Leviathan, which killed all of the other spy agencies and took all their stuff and is trying to change the world by force because the world sucks. On one side, Leviathan's got a point. The world does suck. There's an inequity, there's hunger, there's poverty, there's all kinds of screwed up things. There's COVID, there's everything going wrong. But on the other side, Checkmate wants to be a check and balance against that. To what end? To
Well,
support the
that's
status quo? To keep things the way they are? That's lame. That's not very
well,
imaginative.
it's not just that. I want to see Checkmate actually get together in a room and decide what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just looking at a bunch of random interesting elements, and I think we got to move beyond that for this to work for me. And we're already into the second of a 6-issue arc.
Wow, it's only 6. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned, but we don't have a ton of time. Let's talk a little bit about
Let's do a station ID
Shang-Chi.
drop real quick. Comic books this
All right.
week. Dr. Stanford Carpenter and myself, Hannibal Taboo, head comics reviewer at Bleeding Cool. We're talking about Checkmate. We're talking about Superman. We're talking about Eternals. And now where are we going, Stanford? What's next?
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. Yes. I actually was a little surprised that I didn't enjoy this issue more because they brought in a very interesting new concept again, but I don't think that the way they executed it really carried off in a way that, spoke to the quality of the other books. The basic idea is that Shang-Chi has taken over his father's organization, which was a criminal organization, and he's got these 4 half-siblings who are, hardened criminals, basically. who have run this organization this way, and they're used to doing things a certain way. And he's like, no, we're going to use this organization for good, i.e., exactly what happened with the Agents of Atlas. Sure, I don't mind that. Sure, you've only got one idea for Asian characters. Sure, run it. But in the first 2 issues, there were really, really clever stories that had a little misdirection, had a little subterfuge, had a little nuance to it, right? Here, they're like, nope, just gonna throw Wolverine at it, slash, clang, clang, yay, yay, yay. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. I mean,
You know what? I had a very different. I had different feels around this one.
how so?
Because, well, what I thought was interesting was one thing I think is interesting in the subtext about how we keep seeing Shang-Chi make these little decisions that really get under his brother's skin, which makes you question whether his brother's going to betray him, right?
He's completely going to betray him.
You know, I mean, well, he hasn't done it yet, so. But I think what's interesting is this whole idea with the half-sister that they're looking for, and it turns out that the reason why his father wanted to kill his half-sister is because she was a mutant. And they don't trust mutants because they could have too much power.
That's racist.
I thought, of course it's racist, but, you know, I think that's interesting that you would, what's interesting about it is that you have a criminal mastermind who's going to take that position towards his child.
Well, to be fair, this criminal mastermind was kind of awful to all his kids if you really like look at the tail of the tape.
Well, he was, but what I think is weird about like that decision is, or that choice is that, what does he care? As long as it's his criminal organization that's winning, why does it matter if his child is is it powerful because he's a mutant or powerful because he can beat the crap out of anybody?
Well, a lot of the racism based against mutants in Marvel, which frankly, I'm going to say does not make a lot of sense, especially because you're like Captain America good, Warpath bad. Why? They're the same guy, basically. But
Right.
when you really look at the racism against mutants, the belief is that mutants will stand with mutants against humans, and that ultimately is the concern that people have. Now, me, looking at if you're a criminal mastermind and you have a super powerful daughter, that gives you an edge over other crime lords. Ha ha, you don't have a mutant daughter who's loyal to do everything you want. Ha ha ha, I'm going to use this. And that seems like an advantage to me. Well, to be fair, and this is a lesson that real life has taught us as well, racism always limits your options. Racism always makes you worse off. It makes you less competent than you could have been through other means. And Grand Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars is a great example of that as well. So I just, I really, I think it's intended to like be a kick the dog moment where you see, oh God, these people were terrible. They're even racist to their own mutant daughter, and she's got a flute. So, here we go.
Well, okay. Well, I get the sense I like Shang-Chi a little more than you did. Mm-hmm. I still think it's a solid book. I think it's one of the more solid Marvel books out there. Great art, great storytelling, and the story this week. You're right. I agree with you that it wasn't as clever as the past ones.
Just saying.
If I was going to rank the first 3 issues, this would be in position number 3.
Yep.
But number 3 for Shang-Chi is better than the number 1 of most other books out there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What's up next on Comic Books This Week?
Let's go back to Strange Adventures, Another Job to Do.
Oh my God, this book is so bad. Oh my God. Like, okay, let's do the spoiler thing because that's the only way you're gonna get through this one. We're gonna spoil on is it 3? On 1. No, we'll do it after 1. So 3, 2, cover your ears, spoiler 1. Okay, so Strange Adventures, Adam Strange is a war criminal. And Adam Strange, in being a war criminal, cut a deal with his enemy to get his daughter back to betray Earth. But here's the thing, and I keep bringing this point up, Stanford. Earth has Superman and I believe 7 Shazam-powered people and 6 Green Lanterns and like 100 speedsters and, Son of Vulcan is probably hanging around somewhere. I'm just like, okay, the Picts marched over a whole bunch of planets of people that can't throw planets. But this isn't that, The Picts didn't go to Apocalypse and win. They didn't go to New Genesis and win. They went to planets that, with all due respect, were full of losers.
They went to the Scrubverse.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that.
So
So,
I have a hard time with any of this. With
well,
Adam
I'm gonna
saying,
say
"No, I
I've
can't
been
take this."
enjoying. I'm gonna say I've been enjoying Strange Adventures, in part because I really enjoy any time I get to see Mr. Terrific.
Who's
Mr.
not in this
Terrific
issue?
wasn't he was not in this issue, and this issue suffered for it tremendously. I felt like this issue was just stuck on it was stuck on extending a conversation between two characters,
Yeah.
Ilana and not Doctor Strange,
Adam
Adam
Strange.
Strange. It
I'd prefer Doctor Strange.
the conversation between the two of them didn't have to be more than 3 pages, and
True.
it just got stretched out. I thought that the flashback was actually somewhat interesting, and I find the flashback to kind of interesting in that it's just this perpetual thing of Alana and Adam Strange going around and uncovering these lost civilizations of Ran. Right? I actually think that it's kind of fun, but on this one, I have to agree with you. They did not pull it together. They had a whole bunch of they had some good stray ideas that they didn't pull together, and then yeah, it's in the shadow of this concept of like I don't see how Adam Strange is a threat to Earth in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. It's all well. Okay, there's two problems I have. First of all, Tom King, the writer, has said many times that he comes up with an idea and then he asks DC, "Give me a character to put here." And he'll write the story as though that character was supposed to be there all along, but he doesn't actually have an idea for that character. So that's concerning,
Right.
first of all. Second of all, Tom King was in the CIA in Iraq. And apparently through the book Sheriff of Babylon, as that shows, he did some stuff that was probably pretty messed up. And he's working through a lot of those issues in comics instead of going to therapy. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. I get that Yoon may have killed some people or whatever, but, I don't necessarily believe that working out this way is the most healthy thing, for one, nor the most entertaining thing, which is my area of interest, for two. And whatever's going on with Alana, and the fact that, Adam essentially has been lying to Alana for, I don't know, more than a year, and has been carrying on all this stuff with this elaborate plan just to get his daughter back because he simply doesn't have any more ideas, is more like the Adam Strange of the show Krypton, who's kind of a lovable doofus, and less of the Adam Strange, the swashbuckling, actual thinking guy that had Flash Gordon roots that we were used to. And as such, not feeling it. This would be a low meh for me.
Well, I'm actually I'm with you on that. I mean, some of the things I've liked about Strange Adventures is how he kind of plays this idea of there's this image of Alana and Adam Strange, and then there's the reality, and the reality is lacking.
So lacking.
And I actually love the way they characterize Alana. I like Alana as just this crappy human being.
She's the worst.
Yeah, but oh well. I mean, let's stop beating a dead horse. And let's move back to Marvel, where we can beat a dead Latvian dictator in armor.
Are we going for S.W.O.R.D?
I tried really hard on that one, but it just didn't work. So let's talk S.W.O.R.D.
Dinner time. Dr. Doom goes to dinner with Storm. That did not go well for him. It did not go the way he thought it was going to go.
But it was fun. I thought this was a pretty fun book.
He enjoyed the Booyah base.
Yep. I thought it was fun. I mean, it's a crossover with Guardians of the Galaxy and The Last Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those books where I feel like this is like, just some solid meat and potatoes comics, right?
That's fair.
It's good art. It's got pretty decent story, and it kind of moved the plot along really well, right?
Especially with that last bit.
Yeah, I like the thing where we find out that that Abigail Brand is a bit more devious than we thought she was, and we always thought she was devious.
That's cold.
Yeah. But it was interesting. Like, the X-Men come to save or not the X-Men, the Sword Men come to save the day, and they do. It's kind of, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I love how they're like dancing around the fact that Scarlet Witch is dead, right? They're like, hey, what? Hulking's like, what about Scarlet Witch? Yeah, what about Scarlet Witch? Oh, look over there. Nothing important happening here. But hell, what else do you do?
But
What else do
again,
you do when you killed the mother-in-law of an imperial dictator?
but she died on Krakoa. They can just bring her back. It's not even a big. It's super easy. It's barely an inconvenience.
No, they can't because she's not a mutant anymore.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you didn't
Wait,
know
what?
that?
She came through the gate.
She can't. No, they didn't show how she got there.
Yes, they did. She walked through a gate. It was in one of those party books.
Oh, it was
That conversation
okay.
where she had with
But did
Magneto.
did she have the flower on her chest? Because the flower that they were giving out allows people to walk through the gate.
I don't remember that. But wait, no. I don't think she did. I think she was just dressed like regular Wanda.
You just were not paying close enough attention to her. You're a schmuck.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, so. I'll go back and I'll look, but I'm 99% sure she just walked through the gate because she was like, I wasn't even going to come to your stupid party.
Well, let's not get too bogged down in mediocrity. Let's head back over to DC. What about Mr. Miracle, the Source of Freedom?
I want to love this book, Stanford. I do. I do. I want to. But, it just, like Superman and the Authority, this feels like a book that was pitched as an Elseworld style thing, and I don't know where it fits. And as such, if it's an Elseworlds thing, I can't connect with the main antagonist, Never Free, the supposed daughter of Scott Free, because in this world, there is no Scott Free. So, really, your whole beef
Yeah,
is
there
kind of... Is there?
Remember when we see her empire? It's actually an empire devoted to her mother, Scott Free and Big Barda, and it's called the Free Galactic Imperium.
And what I'm saying is that in the same continuity, in the same dimension with what we're going on here, even with what Oberon said? I don't know.
But with what Oberon, here's the thing. It's clear from what Oberon is saying that we're going to have some sort of explanation as to what this pocket dimension is.
Okay.
I think that we're going to find out that we are in an alternate universe created by something that Oberon is in the process of undoing.
Okay, I guess. Sure.
And I hear you yawning already. So,
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if you're going to be Mr. Miracle, the first thing I need to do is spectacle. And he does not do spectacular things. He mostly gets punched in the face and then goes, ow. I haven't seen him escape anything in, 2 issues now? When he did escape things, they were very impressive. But I'm not feeling this as a gasp-inducing book. And I really need gasps if I'm going to be looking at Mr. Miracle. Because this is Mr., Ordinary Events, not Mr. Miracle.
I mean, I felt like this was an issue where not much happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some good exposition, but you take out the exposition and there's a lot of not much happening. Yeah. But I still feel strangely committed to this book.
The
I don't
title
know if
is so good.
the title's amazing. I do try to always bet on black, and Mr. Miracle actually had one of my first all-time favorite costumes that I ever saw. So,
Okay.
all the component parts are there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to go along with the weirdness to get to the end. There better be a payoff, though.
Oh, there'll be consequences. This is Comic Books This Week with Dr. Stanford Carpenter and myself, Hannibal Taboo. We've gone through a number of things. What's up next?
Well, speaking of consequences, let's talk the United States of Captain America.
I mean, okay. First of all, I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to touch on a lot of issues involving black people in the United States and some of the challenges we're facing and some of the real on-the-ground issues that the Avengers don't take time to deal with or whatever. And yeah, but Christopher Cantwell is not the writer to do it. He did not pull it off. He did not put it together. And, from the the dialogue to really even the plotting of this. You know, the main focus of this is supposed to be a black woman carrying the mantle of Captain America, who spends most of the issue either in jail or on the run. Really? That's where you want to go with us? That's what you want to do? That was your choice? Okay.
Well, and I love how she's different because she's this incredible gymnast, and Simone is like, oh wait, I mean Nichelle, I there's something about this where I feel like the concept is so much more interesting than the execution.
Again, yes.
I feel like the story with Captain America and Sam Wilson Captain America, I think that they should have made that story smaller, much smaller. Mm-hmm. I don't think they even need them to be chasing after a shield. I think it'd be just as interesting if they were just driving across the country trying to figure out who all these Captains America are.
Hard traveling captains.
Right. That I think that would have been more interesting than in saying like, okay, we've got all these local people, taking on our visage, doing these local things. Let's try and meet them. Right. That's all I needed, and I think that would have been a much more interesting United States of Captain America than the stuff with Speed Demon pretending to be Captain America.
I don't need him in cosplay.
All that. Yeah, I you know what? I don't need another German villain.
No,
I'm sorry. Germans went out as villains a while ago.
We've had plenty Captain America punching Nazis, and punching a Nazi and a Nazi hireling it's beneath us. Honestly, the discourse is much stronger than that, and to continue to use these old tropes, these old easy answers as a means to fight this culture war out, essentially, is weak sauce because it doesn't deal with the actual problems. It doesn't deal with the St. Louis County City Council meeting where people cheered as mask mandates were put down. You know, a room of almost exclusively white people who were in upper middle class, apparently. So yeah, I'm just like, nah, fam. I appreciate the pieces that were interesting here are so small based on the whole thing that's going on that there's too much of the Christopher Cantwell script and plot here that don't have any real ideas behind them for me to really keep up with this. I'm having a hard time with it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think like I said, I think that the concept is really cool and the execution of this is just horrendous.
Yeah.
I think it's utterly horrendous, and I don't know what else to do with it.
It's looking like a rough week. Kind of a rough week, man.
Yeah, it is. But let's stop kicking our country in the teeth because we've got Cantwell already doing it.
We've got America already doing it to itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got three more left. We've got Static, we've got Icon and Rocket, we got Shadow Doctor. So we got three. We still
real
got.
Quickly, I'm gonna let you just finish the show strong because real quickly because I did get a chance, is why I was late, reading Other History of DC Universe, and it makes Black Lightning into a dick. Like it makes him into a complete a homophobic jerk. And I'm like, that's interesting, given that you did a completely different approach with him 4 issues ago. That's weird. And I mean, it makes Nightwing look bad. It makes Roy Harper look. Basically, it makes a lot of people look bad, right? And the people that it makes look good, like it takes Katana and does a weird thing with her that completely contradicts her own issue. And I'm like, what happened here, man? What are y'all doing? What's? It wasn't a bad issue, but it was very confusing in context.
Right. Completely. And I think that that's actually that it actually summarizes the whole problem with Other History. Mm-hmm. Is I don't think that any of the issues were written with the other issues in mind.
Oh, like the sequel trilogy in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's the same guy doing it.
That does seem rough. Let's move on. Let's get to Shadow Doctor because I know you love this book.
Well, Shadow Doctor, I mean, I think this is the last issue. It ends on N. This is issue number 5.
Okay.
And it just it ends with him, with him going to the office of the people hunting down his boss, right? This is a beautiful book. The artwork is beautiful. I love the artwork. And the storytelling is beautiful. You could tell that this guy has a really good sense of pacing.
Yeah.
And if you did, there's so many elements of this that normally wouldn't work for me that just worked, right? In terms of like I find a lot of comic book period pieces are hard to pull off.
True.
When I say period piece, something that's I mean something non-fantasy. They can be really hard to pull off, and they managed to do that with this one. So I'm kind of liking what I'm experiencing here.
It's been strong for you every issue.
Yeah, I mean there has not been a bad issue.
That's something to say in these day and age.
Yeah, but it's also really good character moments, like when the guy is talking to when he's talking to the woman that he's driving with, and he opens the trunk and there's this guy in chains and he throws him in the river, right? There's just like he's so casual about it, right?
Yeah.
And then and then something happens to him and he's casual about that too. And then the doctor meets Rafa and he gets a little something. I mean just that whole scene, right? And about how it gets broken up by his job. It's just really, I mean, it's done really well. It didn't feel as gratuitous as it could have.
All
and
right.
that was nice.
That's good to hear. Strong from Shadow Doctor. All right. We got about 5 minutes left for you to go milestone. Come on.
Oof. Okay, so Icon and Rocket, number 1, Static, number 2. Okay. Icon and Rocket, I mean, here's the thing. The art was great.
Agreed.
The storytelling was great. The story is exactly the story that we've already been told about the origin of Icon and Rocket.
But many people don't know it.
Many people don't know it. And they actually added a couple little details that I thought were really interesting, like why it is that the spaceship that lands with Icon in it imprints on the first advanced person that they run into, right?
No, that was in the original.
About them not eating their young?
Yeah, that part was in the original.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I was never mind then. But I love these little details, right? The only thing is that we already had a Milestone 0. I wish I had gotten this story in Milestone 0.
Yeah. I have actually a question. Where's the ship?
That's a good question.
Because I had a horrible thought that ship is at the root of Alva's fortune. Because I was like, why is Alva so rich in technology? Oh, no. What happened to the ship? Where'd you put the ship?
I mean, so I'm one of those people who's anxiously awaited Milestone, the return of Milestone. I'm interested in what they're trying to do. With Icon and Rocket, I love the story, but I wish we had moved on to something that I hadn't seen before. That's all.
That's fair. And for Static.
And then Static, I felt like this episode was this issue was kind of a extended pregnant pause.
Yeah.
It's much of it is really about what happened after we put the fire out at Static's house.
Yeah.
Right? It's mostly character development. It's not a lot of action.
Yeah.
But what I do like is how in the end it shows the connectedness between Static and Hardware. That Curtis Metcalf is this really well-respected scientist who has connections to all sorts of other people, and he happens to have a connection to Virgil Hawkins. I want to see where that goes. And so I feel like, in some ways, I feel like Icon and Rocket and Static are both doing the same thing, which is they're holding a really interesting place, but I really want to see it take off. I really want to get a better sense of where we're going.
I was curious what you thought because I noticed that Virgil's a lot more cavalier with revealing his powers. His parents both know now. His sister
Yeah.
knows, which is a very different take from the original thing where he went to extraordinary means to hide that information from them. There's a lot more open nature to powers of people going on in school, people using them openly. What do you think of that? And that is a shift from the original Milestone tape.
I'm not sure how I feel about that because once you start doing that, then you're building a very different world, and I'm
And not a
wondering
Cosby
how
show.
they're gonna. Right.
Okay.
But when I say that, I mean it's like, so we live in the world of Instagram and TikTok,
Yep.
right? And so, I mean, now today, if you revealed your secret identity, it would be everywhere in a heartbeat.
Yep.
I mean, and it'd really hard to like do the thing where you have you show up with somebody else dressed like you and dispel the rumor.
I
It'd
know
be
how to do
really
that on
really hard.
TikTok.
Right. So yeah. But yeah, I mean that's yeah, I don't know how they're gonna make it. I don't know how they're gonna make it work because we're gonna quickly lose our ability to suspend disbelief. Like at a certain point, it's a world management problem,
Yeah.
and we just need to see how they play that out. This idea that people have power is cool, but that people know who the people are that have powers. In some ways, it's kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Everybody knows who Captain America is.
No, he doesn't do anything else. He doesn't have an off job. So yeah,
Right.
just Cap.
So, I mean, I guess this means Virgil won't be slinging burgers.
I guess not. This is Comic Books This
So,
Week with Dr. Stanford Carpenter and myself, Hannibal Taboo. We have talked about a lot of books. Please join us every week at 3 p.m. on Clubhouse. Plus, I'll be uploading this to YouTube very shortly. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you listening, and we will definitely see you next time. Any last thoughts before we go, Stanford? Before I go to my day gig meeting?
well, go to your day gig meeting and prosper.
I will indeed. All right, thank you so much, and we'll be back next week. See ya.
See you later.